All right, it looks like we're starting to file in at the amount of participants we have here. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. My name is Brian. We've got JMB here with us today. We've got Dave Herman here with us today. And this session is about optimizing your creative performance with first-party data and creative analytics specifically. That's a lot of words. What that means is we're going to show you today why first-party data is important and why our new tool that we just launched at Northbeam that we're very, very, very excited about, that you probably heard about, can help you master your ad creative experimentation. We're going to get into some details. So just telling you what's going to happen in this session. We've blocked off a full hour. We'll see if we're going to take that much time. Details of what we're going to cover. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of, once again, why first-party data is so important, because it's kind of the backbone of everything that we're doing here. Then we're going to get into creative analytics, the tool itself. We're going to define some things for you. So really getting into the nitty-gritty of what exactly these charts are on creative analytics, where it is, how it works, why we made it, for example, so that you can really understand what we're talking about when we're digging into how to implement this in your own work, which is the next topic we'll talk about after that. We have JMB and Dave Herman here today to talk about how exactly we can work creative analytics into your current creative process right now, and how you could succeed with it. Tips, tricks, understanding it, reading it. It's a pretty complicated and powerful tool that's both simple and I think powerful enough for you to basically do a lot of your creative reporting off of it. So I'm going to kick us off. JMB, Dave, thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate your help with this.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, let's go for it. So I would hope that everybody on this call knows, and if you don't, I'm going to start at the top, that media buyers really need to leverage marketing to hit their business goals. That's what we do here. Third-party data is increasingly unreliable. What I mean by third-party data is I mean platform data you're pulling from other sources. There's all these privacy laws. Every iOS update that seems to come through seems to be pulling off more and more tracking off of all the tools that we're using to actually run our creative experiments. We have limited information on site visitors, conversion paths. Everything's changing, right? We're looking at a cookieless future. You're losing attribution models and power that is really, really valuable for you as media buyers who are trying to run your experiments. You're trying to understand which ads are most impactful. You're trying to understand, where do I need to spend my marketing budget to grow my business, right? We all know that ad creative is king. We're all here because we make ads, we run ads, we buy things off ads. I know I'm definitely one of those people. And Northbeam exists as a tool because we know that you need good data to do good creative testing. Just a great segue into why we've created this upcoming tool, but I want to make this baseline really clear for everyone. So, there's kind of three big things that matter for running powerful, effective creative tests. You got to have first-party data. You need to have reliable user identification, and you need to have machine learning powered attribution on how those ads are actually performing, right? And that's what Northbeam provides for you. So here at Northbeam, just showing you how this thing works. We have a bunch of first-party tracking. We build into your, the pixel on our site, sits across all of your digital properties, all your digital assets, and helps you track users all the way to the path of conversion. Northbeam connects with all of your existing e-commerce platforms and advertising tools. And we do hourly collection and data maintenance to really give you like a custom built path to conversion and attribution in your ads so that you understand which ads are actually driving sales, right? You can learn all about this on our site. You can talk with our sales team about it, but I wanted to run through this and give you an understanding as to what exactly is going on under the hood of creative analytics and what makes it more powerful than what you may have been doing before, right? So we're doing all that cleansing, stitching, and data mapping that's really creating this robust data set that sits inside Northbeam that you're going to be able to reference and look at with creative analytics. So once again, we're running everything machine learning. You understand we have tons of different attribution models you can use. You're never locked into one. We're going to explore some of those. So I'm going to save this. Most importantly, I think if we're media buyers and we're thinking about it, the number one thing we're doing is we're understanding this flywheel of ad experimentation, right? The more confidence you have in your data, the better ad experiments you can run, the more attribution models you have that you can use to analyze those ads and that performance. You can better understand how your ads are performing on each channel. You can make better decisions on those ad experiments, and then you just repeat the process, right? This is the sort of growth engine that you hear growth people talk about all the time. Northbeam sits at the center of that, especially if you're a media buyer running very, very intense creative experiments, which leads me to my next section, Northbeam's newest feature, creative analytics. If you're on this webinar and you haven't heard about creative analytics, or you haven't messed around with the tool yet, creative analytics is our new dashboard that we've created to help you see and have a visual representation of the ads running in your ad account, analyze them, optimize them, pull out winners, identify losers, and basically have a much more cross-departmental and visual understanding of what's going on in your ad accounts. It's really useful if, for example, you're dealing with creative teams, or you want to demonstrate which ads are working, not just using taxonomy, but actually showing dashboards and visuals to other teams. It's a really powerful way to filter and organize your ads by tons of different metrics and create custom views that help you understand what's going on in your ad account, right? So this is really powerful stuff. We launched this I think two weeks ago now, maybe a week ago now, something like that. And I mean, the uptake has been just absolutely amazing. People really, really love this tool. I personally love it. And today in this session, we're going to dig into some of the details of this thing. We're going to play around with it a little bit. We're going to show you some examples of how you could use it in your ad account. And we're going to give you some tips and tricks to help you to master this thing, right? If you're in Northbeam now and you have Northbeam now, I would recommend you just open up Northbeam, go over to the left-hand side. Over here on the left-hand side tab at the bottom, the little picture image, you can click that and see creative analytics right now in your account for your ads and follow along with us. So let's get into it. JB, thanks for joining us today, man. I know you had a huge hand in making this tool and you knew a lot about making this. Tell me a little bit about why we wanted to create something like creative analytics for our customers.
Yeah, it's a great question. So biggest drivers for creating creative analytics was to create a simple and beautiful way to look at creative. Media buyers are often stuck either in Ads Manager or looking at data, and there's really not a lot of visual cues and indicators when you're in and out media buying, day-to-day media buying. And so we wanted to create a simple and beautiful way to experience your creative, and also a simple way to report on creative, share creative that's working, and be able to connect the creative department, marketing department, and then either your finance team or other teams to be able to all come together and look at one screen and understand what's driving performance, what creatives are working well, and how to iterate on those that are working well to create more.
This is a pretty big tool. Like, if you don't mind my candor on this, I know it's took our product team a long time to build. There was a lot of iterations of getting this thing right, of chatting with our customers and making sure that we were building it in a way that made sense for the way that people think about media. Why are we giving this away for free?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the biggest thing that we focus on is enabling businesses, and then enabling the teams that make up those businesses to make good decisions, make fast decisions, and we want to offer a solution that actually does all of those things, not just kind of piecemeal parts together. And so the decision, driven by Austin Harrison and then David and other members of our leadership team, was we want to give this to people now, and we want them to be able to use it. We don't want to lock this behind an additional paywall. We want to fully support these teams that are fighting against all of the obstacles that get in the way of an e-commerce business scaling. And so we just wanted to get it out and get people using it quickly without any additional friction.
I really appreciate that. I wish I'd had this and when I was running businesses. So I want to get into a little bit of the functionality of creative analytics. I'm sure those of you on the webinar who have Northbeam are already in here clicking around right now. We're going to talk about the functionality that's available. We're going to talk about what you can do And we're going to define some of the visuals that you see here and help you read those, right? So that when you're going back and you're looking at this yourself, or you're sharing it with other teams, that they can understand the visuals that are being presented to them, right? So, creative analytics is this way for you filtering, organizing, and analyzing your metrics or your ads by the metrics that you want to see, right? So you could sort it by tons of different metrics. You have all these different attribution windows and models available, as you could see here. You could choose which metrics you want to demonstrate and show in creative analytics, which gives you this ability to like, oh, okay, I want to look at bottom of funnel only. So show me just bottom of funnel metrics versus like, let's say we're running something that's middle of funnel or top of funnel. We might want to see certain things, or, oh, my entire performance media goal is, let's say, new visits and percent of new visits, and that's what I want to drive. So like, let's look at that and understand which ads performing against that. So that's what creative analytics allows you to do. And we're going to do some live demos. So I just want to rush through and get to that. But first, I think there's some important things to understand when we're talking about this visual and the words that we use. So when you're in creative analytics and you're looking at it, each ad exists in something called a card. And this is just a little capsule that includes all the information that you've selected for that specific ad over the specific time frame. The thing I really want to dig into is what we are calling heat maps. So if any of you have never seen spark lines before, these are really powerful, but they can be sometimes misinterpreted and or ignored altogether when they're actually a really powerful thing of how, that can help you understand your ads. So JMB, can you explain a little bit these the little spark lines up here beside ROAS and FB ROAS right here? Can you explain a little bit about what that shows and how that works?
Yep. So what this is showing is performance over the series of time that you have selected in your main navigation bar. And what this is for is just a very quick visual to understand how this ad is performing over time. And it's a way to, without having to dig in deeper, you can scan, 8 to 10 ads, and I can say, okay, this ad is going up and to the right. That's fantastic. It means that over time it's continuing to improve. And if you see an ad that is, consistently going down, then you're probably experiencing either creative fatigue or a high frequency on that specific ad unit. And it allows you to very quickly identify what ads need to be looked at, what ad sets need to be looked at, and potentially what ads need to be scaled.
So that spark line is actually showing all the data from the length of time you have selected.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not even just like last 7 days or whatever. It's like that whole length of so that tiny little visual. I know that so many of us, myself included, might want to breeze right past it, but it's actually really, really impactful for understanding trends. I love that. So what about these heat maps down here? Because you have the heat map, it goes from green to red. The red and green distribution varies depending on the specific metric. And then you have the dot itself. Could you explain this little heat map portion and how to interpret that?
Yep. So the heat map is how, for that particular metric, how this ad stacks up against all other ads that have run during that time frame that you have selected. So again, the goal for this is to be a very quick visual cue on how this ad is performing against the metrics that you're looking at across the entirety of every ad that has spent during that time selected. And you can see you've got on the bottom line, you've got red, yellow, and green. And then you actually have a fill color basically that shows at a quick glance how this ad is performing against all other ads that have run during that time period. And again, the goal here is to have a very clean and simple way to identify what you need to dig further into or what you need to scale. It's also a very interesting way to understand very quick CPM changes, click-through rate changes, kind of those top of funnel metrics that you look at when you're judging creative versus judging performance of the creative itself. It's a very quick visual indicator on how that's performing against all other ads that have run.
It's kind of like a flattened interpretation of like a standard deviation curve, sort of, right? Like,
yep.
And certain ones will be like skewed to the left or skewed to the right, but it shows you where your ad lands. So, looking at, for example, CTR on this option, we know that this specific ad visual lands in the upper end of CTR and it's doing really, really well compared to all the other ads in that filter. And then the distribution here is pretty normal because it's like pretty green over on the right, it's pretty red over on the left, but under attributed revenue, for example, like the distribution's different because there's far more red. So the way the ads, all the ads in that set are not actually performing on attributed rev, as well as some of these ones over here in the green that are like skewing the whole thing. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep,
so this is
correct.
like, this might look, I don't know, this to me is the most powerful, like fast scanning thing that I see in creative analytics. Because that's, you know, you say it over and over. And I remember us having these conversations about it. It's easy, it's fast. And I think the key to that is understanding how to glance at this data and immediately interpret it. And so that's one major reason I wanted to have this webinar today. So thank you so much for that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Before we get into the demo, I want to make clear that all the data that you're seeing is fake, everybody. So if I knew how to get a 59.9 one-day ROAS, I would not be at this job. I would have my own brand and I would be on an island somewhere running it. So all the data that you see is fully anonymized, but we are going to use a real client's ads to help you understand a little bit what's going on. So I think it's time for creative analytics demo. What we're going to do next is we're going to dive into CI. I know many of you are already clicking around, but we're going to dive in. I'm going to hand over the controls to JMB here, and we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration and a tour. I'm going to try and answer some of your questions. And then I also have some questions for David about how exactly to insert this thing into your work. So I'm going to stop sharing. You can go ahead and take over, JMB.
Yep. All right, and right off the top, we have two good questions. So I'm going to answer those super quick and then jump into just a more normal demo. So the first question is, do the cards include only a single ad, or are the ads, can you group them by all ads that have that same name? And you can group them. So that's what this group ads by name right here is. What this does is it allows you to, instead of looking at every ad unit as a single ad unit, all ad units that have the same naming convention in Northbeam, you'll group them together. And you group them by, like I said, the naming convention that you have in platform. For Facebook, we do ignore the dash copy that Facebook loves to just sneak in there when you're duplicating ads into new ad sets or campaigns. And we are working on, for TikTok, they will have like a random suffix at the end of a name. We're working on being able to group them, even if you don't update all the names to be consistent. So fantastic question there. And then the second question, here we go. The second question is, what are the grouping options here? So I'm assuming that's what you mean by group ads by name. And that's how you can group them. So getting into creative analytics and just kind of the first, when you first experience it, you've got this top navigation bar, which allows you to select the date range that you're wanting to look at. It allows you to individually select or select all platforms currently available. Right now we have Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok. I know this question comes up often. We are working on additional platforms as well, and we'll roll those out as we are able to. You've got your attribution model. So these are our models that we offer that you can look at. Clicks only, clicks and views are proprietary, whereas last touch, last not direct, first, and linear are your kind of standard models of attribution, and then the window selected that you want to have. Next down here, so we have metrics separated into two distinctions. We have key metrics, which is either your ROAS or your CAC, and then you have additional metrics that you can add. When you come in here and click add metrics, any metric that is available in the sales page, you're going to be able to select here. We also have platform metrics for each of these platforms that you can add in as well. And coming soon, we'll have calculated metrics where you can create your own calculations. By coming soon, coming before the end of the year, we'll say that.
I would love to dig in on that. So,
okay.
I mean, one powerful usage of this immediately is if you were, for example, going to try to communicate to let's say your senior leadership team or you're the senior leadership team of your clients, like who have said, first visits, percent of new visits is like a big priority for me. I want to see that my ads are actually running that. You could go into those metrics, that ad metrics, you could pick ROAS or CAC and just pick all the related metrics that you want to see. It'll apply to all the cards. And then you can just send this dashboard to them. And if they know how to work the sorts on the side, they can sort and just see this however they want and understand that.
Yep, exactly. So you can come in here and say, I want to sort by new visits. It'll automatically sort for best performance, basically. You can switch that to worst performance. And then something else that you can do, it's going to be typically like if I want to filter here, this is an additional filter. So, let's say that this first ad that popped up, it had 2 cents of spend, but it had, it's not obviously not going to have the most new visits, but it is up here, but it doesn't have enough spend to where you don't want to look at it. You can come in here with this additional filtering and you can say spend is greater than, and let's say $1,000. You hit apply, and then that will remove from the visual, it will remove all ads that haven't spent to that threshold of $1,000. So it allows you to very quickly say, okay, I want to see my top performers, and I also want to see my top performers as long as they've hit a certain threshold of spend, or if they've hit a certain, insert metric that you want to additionally filter by here.
This is so powerful for just so many different departments that I know as a growth person I would have to interact with, which is a great segue to introduce our man of the hour here, Dave Herman. Dave, thanks for jumping in, man. I know you had a huge impact on developing this and being a part of this process. In your mind, as someone who's running millions of dollars of ad spend a year, how do you think brands should insert this tool into their current creative experimentation process? Like, where does this fit in the procedural cycle of how people do their work?
I think one of the biggest ways that I've seen, I've benefited from it, is taking a screen share with your creative team on a call once a week and going over each creative task and looking at it as it relates to your business as usual campaigns or ads, and having it kind of keyed up. So for example, as long as your naming conventions, and this is actually a general reminder, your naming conventions make a big impact here, right? And we design this thing so you can search by those types of breakdowns, and it's really important. So, for example, we can start looking at things like, the difference in the thumb stop rate between almost looking at it from a standpoint of, hey, we're really interested in going all in on the color yellow with our texts and everything. Okay, let's put that into our naming convention and go. I don't know why you do that, but whatever. And so what we found is that, doing a once a week call with our creative team helps immensely. What's also awesome is utilizing this tool in conjunction with sort of a creative key, or, when you're building out new iterations of ads, being able to go in here and go, okay, iteration 1 versus iteration 2, where's the drop off? Where's, looking at it from a thumb stop perspective, which is, impressions divided by 3-second video views for Facebook, and going, okay, if we can achieve like a 30 or 40% thumb stop rate, and our new visit percentage of that is, above 60%, that's our metric of success, right? Or whatever it may be. That's what I feel like is really going to be the most beneficial stuff. If you want to bring up the chart, JMB.
Yep.
So this is where you would do a lot of that, and you can kind of, look at it on a chart display. I typically, I like looking at one at a time personally, just that's my personal preference. But, if you want to just pull up, 4, looking at them in comparison, you can go for it. What's been interesting about this aspect has been, for media buyers, especially that are on this call, we are definitely seeing a lot of fluctuations recently in Meta. And what we've encountered was the soft metrics have looked really good, but the overall conversion metrics have looked pretty soft. And this sort of helps you understand, okay, where is my baseline for success on that front? and kind of getting more into it with not only your creative team, but also your growth team. And I've encountered that the creative team often doesn't really know conversion, right? They're more focused on the creative aspect of this, but getting them sort of in, almost gamifying it with them in a way of like, hey, like this ad didn't generate what we needed it to. Can you go back and make this better, and kind of get them excited about it? That's been something that's been kind of fun to explore.
So you touched on a couple different things that I definitely want to chat about. So, you're talking about thumb stock metrics and stuff in here. What are your favorite metrics to look at? We have engagement metrics in here. What are your favorite ones to look at when you're looking at this tool?
So one of the ones, if I'm looking at video, I like looking at thumb stop rate, but I also like looking at people who've watched 75 and 95% of the videos. And what that does is it just gives me an indication of going like, okay, if I can get an understanding of like how things, like how far along we're completing these videos and where the drop off is. If people are dropping off at, whatever X amount of time in the percentage of the video, that gives me an indication of, okay, maybe my video is too long, or maybe my video is too short. And then it goes, okay, I don't even mention the product until the 50% in or 60% in. Okay, I'm going to move it up to the first 6 seconds and try that. Oftentimes, and this is something that's been funny, is on TikTok, what we've found is that if you mention the product in the first 2 to 3 seconds, that's the biggest drop off. So we like to almost move it to the 6-second mark, because TikTok will almost identify it as an ad quicker. And so they'll move on quicker. So, those are the things that you've kind of encounter in doing some of this analytics when you're looking at time that they're watching the videos, because the thumb stop only tells you one thing. It's not, I think a lot of creatives kind of look at that and go, oh, I got 30% thumb stop rate or 40%. That's awesome. Okay, great. You hooked people in, but did they stay? Is it just a clickbait? Is it complete clickbait, your ad? And that's when you kind of look at sort of the how long of the video they've watched.
If there's anything I've learned hanging out here at Northbeam with you and then watching this tool be developed, it's that there is no one metric that just explains everything for your business.
Right.
And so I really like that we have the saved views in here, like, because you could create a bunch of saved views based on a couple different angles, like exactly what you said. Like, all right, let's look at thumb stop now, right? We have a view that like masters that thumb stop thing and makes it really clear to understand that. But how does that affect, other trailing metrics that we want to track? This is maybe a question for both you guys. What kind of saved views do you like to do? Do you like to use? I really like a new visits, percent new visits focused one, alongside like a more conversion focused one, and then an engagement one, so that I can kind of see my ads from however they may be affecting the actual business itself. What kind of saved views do you guys like?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat as you. So I have my video engagement metrics, but then I also I'm pretty how do I say it is I'm pretty bullish on static ads. I've always been bullish on static ads just from an execution standpoint. And so I'm looking at things like, okay, what static ad generates the highest click-through rate? And so I'll basically build a static ad sort of saved metrics versus a video one. And we can sort by this pretty easily in here, but I like looking at it quickly and driving down and going like, okay, are static or video performing better week over week? What's doing better? What's driving the highest cost per new visit? And all of that kind of stuff. And that what ends up happening then as a result of that, and we've seen this a lot over the last almost 2 months now, especially with Meta, has been, as Meta's consistently modifying things in their platform, the video aspect of the tool in terms of delivery, we've actually seen statics outperform video and get better returns across the board, because it seems like they're able to identify users quicker based on new visit percentages and things like that. And so we've actually moved a lot of campaigns in my accounts just to simply static ads because of that. And that's been partially, utilizing a service like this and diving in and seeing some of those metrics that you don't normally identify in other areas. Creative is the targeting. Facebook's been very bullish on saying that. And so it's going like, okay, can we make more headline ads that speak to the time of year, right? So going and saying like, okay, if we mention things like summer or hot weather or beach or things like that, does that generate a higher click-through rate? And as long as you can put that in your naming convention, what you can do is you can just go up to the search function there and type in, hot dash summer headline, right? Whatever it is you put in your ad name, and start to understand like how is that being related to everything else. And so yeah, that's kind of how I've done it. I don't know, J and B, if you have anything different.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. I, as Brian and Dave are aware, I look at creative in Excel mainly. I am not a visual learner or visual person. That said, I personally, so like reporting, especially for agencies and then internal teams that are reporting to stakeholders, building reports takes the majority of your time, especially at the end of the month and at the beginning of the month. And so I like creating saved views as a way to share very quickly with stakeholders or other team members what creative is working very well. I find you always need to have how is this creative performing in terms of the bottom line? So how, what is my CAC? What is my ROAS? What is my performance on this? And then, so I usually have a CAC, a ROAS, filters, and save views, attributed revenue as well. To David's point about videos versus images, it feels like it's quite cyclical on Facebook, whether, images are the rage or videos are the rage. I think the marketers ruin everything tagline here. I think once you start hearing in all of the Slack groups and all of the Twitters, et cetera, that videos are performing well, everybody creates videos. And then the videos become, the user or the actual end user becomes blind to videos. And so then statics start performing well. So then it's like, all right, let's go all in on statics. And so similar to what David was talking about with click-through rates between images and videos, I also like to set CPM by image and video. I like to set additional engagement metrics on image and video, like Dave was saying, hold rate, things like that, just to have a finger on the pulse of what is actually disrupting in a good way my consumer, my customer when they're in their feed. And what is helping change that pattern versus what is just being scrolled through or scrolled by.
These are exactly lining up into what I think is the core of what we're doing here at Northbeam, and what we're always talking about is organizing this data in a way that you can look at it and not just see all of it, but look at it and immediately make a distinction on what's working and what's not. And that at the base of it is like why we've built creative analytics this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to wrap us up here with
Do you care if I show two more things?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
So a few more things to look at. So we talked a lot about save views here. You can see as David was talking, I created these two additional save views. And you can very quickly just roll through them. The way to save one is you click on the save button once you have the view to be what you want it to be. And then when you click manage, you can drag and drop them wherever you want them in the lineup here. And then other thing is when you see an ad that is performing well, like, I see this ad and I want to say, okay, I want to scale this ad or I want to do something to this ad. I can click here and it's going to immediately take me to, so like in here, when the data is not anonymized, you'll have the ad name, the ad set that it lives in, and the campaign that it lives in. You can also click this little button here, and it'll take you straight to the sales table, and it'll show you that campaign, that ad set, and that ad. So you can very quickly identify things that you want to scale, maybe cull, etc., and hopefully make the process easier between having Northbeam here, having Facebook here, ads manager up, and trying to match the campaigns, ad sets, and ads.
That's a perfect segue into what I was going to say. So I want to give people like a takeaway or a piece of advice that they can go with straight out of this call. They could just go open Creative Analytics right now, what we sometimes call CA, and just go for it. My recommendation would be if you are someone who's doing reporting, So like what you just mentioned, where people who were, let's just say, have full control over their ad accounts or running it all themselves aren't necessarily reporting to anyone. If you are doing reporting or you are engaging with other accounts, I would go right now and come in here and just rebuild your weekly, monthly, whatever it is, report straight into CA and see if you can get to solutions, outcomes, understandings, insights faster with CA than whatever you were doing before. And then see how much quicker it is for you to make this report in here than it is to, let's say, screenshot a bunch of creatives and put them on a Google Slides deck, for example. So I would just come in here, put all the metrics that you want to see, and just start sharing it and just make it part of your work and make it part of what you do. That's going to be the fastest kind of way to integrate this into your work. So parting thoughts, JMB, David, any advice, tips, tricks for our media buyers in the audience as they get started here?
Yeah, I actually like the last question that came in from Ryan. It says, for optimizing video performance, if we're not paying specific attention to any metrics right now, just focused on making great content, what are the 3 to 5 lowest hanging fruit metrics to have our creative team focus on? And the reason I love this question is because it's going to be different based on the media buyer and then based on the objective of the ad itself. Dave is I'm going to use the word savant when it comes to understanding creative and understanding human emotion and understanding what moves people. And so, Dave, like, I know for me, my personal thought on metrics to look at for great creative is how much money did I make from this and how quickly can I ramp up spend? That is a classic direct response marketer opinion. But for Dave, for people who are more creatively inclined and people who are thinking about this in a different way from just, direct response, I need immediate results. What are the ways that you as a creative and as someone who does this day in and day out, what do you look at?
Yeah, I've already kind of alluded to it. If it's a video, I'm really looking at the 75%, 95% watch rate. I'm also looking at, your outbound click-through rate, just because I think it's important. But it really depends on each creative. And I think that oftentimes we treat every creative as almost the same. And, just looking at what you have in front here, like looking at static ads, us versus them ads, and what appears to be, more video ads, for Hexclad, it's every one of these has a different outcome of what you're intending the product to do, right? If you're doing a video ad, you're intending the audience to learn who you are. And that's really the end of it. I mean, that's a video ad, it's a commercial, right? It's to spark curiosity. And so I always like to look at that in conjunction with that. Is my storytelling in the ad that I want to be direct response, as in AKA driving sales? Is it driving sales, or is this more of a brand awareness video? You know what? I'm going to drive this top of funnel, and I'm literally looking at all the soft metrics. I'm looking at, is it on Facebook and is it driving a higher view rate? But then also going in and saying, like, okay, I'm seeing a very low click-through rate and a very high watch rate. Okay, this is intended for this purpose only. It's an entertainment piece, right? Lastly, another thing that's really important to look at, and I think a lot of people tend to miss this, is diving deeper into how the video is played and where the video is played, right? And looking at it going, okay, well, is it on Instagram Reels only? If it is, you have a very low, CPM cost and a very, very, very bad click-through rate, right? Because that's the intended purpose. And so understanding all of these underlining things is really where it gets. So it's a kind of a non-answer to an answer. It really comes down to just creative storytelling and like not getting too into the minutia of like, hey, not every ad is going to sell the product. At the end of the day, it's really meant as an inspire, delight, kind of go for more of an ADA method, right? So it's stuff like that I kind of look at. I'm not sure if that's helpful, but yeah.
And this is something like just with this ad, and David, you talk about this a lot, is like the percentage of the video watched. So like using this video in particular, we've got the headline, this is the Rolls Royce of pans. Then you've got a few very quick cuts. and visually appealing, and then you get into the value props, metal intensive safe. Well, this is 8 seconds, 10 seconds into a 24-second video. So someone who is, if I'm a parent, I've got 4 kids myself. I have Hexclad pans. I love them because I can use metal utensils on them, even though I don't. I love that you can put them in the dishwasher, even though I don't. And so when you're looking at this and you're seeing, okay, out of 1,000 people that watch this video, only 5% made it past the first 10 seconds. Well, I've not even gotten into my value props yet. I've just gotten into, hey, here's Gordon Ramsay. Look at him. Hey, I've got my headline in, but I don't have the value props in. And so a lot of questions that we get at Northbeam is like, how should I test creative? This is a great way to do it is, okay, we've got this video, it's 24 seconds. I've got 4 value props in this video, all past the first 10 seconds of the video. I can make 8 different versions of this ad using the exact same creative and just moving the value props sooner, moving the value props later, etc. And those are all things that can be uncovered, as David was saying, by looking at percentage watched, looking at click-through rate, and understanding how this is being consumed, to David's point, where it's being consumed, and the intent of the user, not what you want them to do, but what they're doing on that specific platform. A user, the same person is very different on Facebook than they are on Instagram, than they are on TikTok. And they're using those for different things. I don't think it's rare to know, adults especially. TikTok is usually one of those. I've got 5 minutes and I want to scroll, or like I'm trying to go to sleep, but also don't want to go to sleep yet. So I'm just doom scrolling this. So yeah. It's always great to understand by platform, what is the intent of the user when they're on that platform? Where are they consuming this content? And what is your goal for their consumption specific to where they're consuming?
Yeah, and I think lastly, I was actually on a consulting call about this a couple of days ago, and we noticed that the brand's thumbs-up percent, click-through rate, kind of everything died in the same day. And then it went right back up after about a week, and they didn't do anything different. And we're like, what happened? And it was a string of negative news. And that's something we also were looking at. It's like, okay, this date we're seeing across the board that this metric is down. It's not just one ad, it's every ad. And you go, okay, rather than go ahead and freak out and change everything, know that that's outside my control, right? It's a negative news story. And we know from history that negative news stories generate less encouragement to buy things because people are transfixed by something else, right? And it happens on Facebook especially. And so those are the things that I like to look at too, of like, hey, this is going on. Okay, this is what, let's mark that down. Let's annotate that and go moving forward. When we're going back to look, we're going to take that subset out of the data because that's an anomaly in the data that is outside of our control, right? And those are the things that help actually protect you from having to go back to the drawing board and think, oh no, the sky is falling, when in reality, it has nothing to do with your ads. It has everything to do with things that are outside your control. So yeah, that's what stuff I get to do with that. So anyway.
That's a lot of the stuff we talk about every week in the media buyer too, is I'm always like trying to grab, with our position, talking to so many clients every single week, trying to grab stuff where it's like, hey, did you think about maybe the fact that it rained the whole weekend, or something like that, right? Yeah. Like trying to grab that stuff and like bring it center for people. Great. Sorry. Any last thoughts?
I'm answering this last question because it's a great one. So the question is, when using the toggle, is there a way to specify for naming convention, for example, Facebook influencer, Facebook specific product? So you can group ads by name here. If you want to just look at one platform, you can select it here, or you can leave them all selected. And then you've got this nifty little search bar. So here you can search by the name of the campaign. You can search by the name of the ad set or the ad, anything that's included in the ad itself. And this is another fantastic way to very quickly be able to access your creative testing campaigns. You create this filter, you can create a save view basically that is, if you've got, your creative testing campaign, naming convention is creative testing 1, creative testing 2. You can create those here and you'll have a one-click view to that specific campaign, ad set, or grouping of ads. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but thought that was a fantastic question.
All right, last call on questions here, folks. I'll give you another 10 seconds, but honestly, other than that, Fantastic presentation, you guys. I love this tool. Google Ads creatives.
Yes. So we're working on additional platforms. We've got in the hopper right now, we've got Google, YouTube, as well as Pinterest. And potentially Twitter. These are all platforms that we are actively working on. And as we continue to roll out new platforms, we'll add them automatically, and we'll send you a nifty little update to that they're available. Also, shout out to Brian and Autumn on the team for follow us on Twitter. I personally, Twitter's the only social media that I'm an actual human on. And I love our Twitter account, and especially the people who comment in and around it.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, follow up with us there on Twitter. ETA on product stuff is really tough, Ryan. We'll let you know when we know.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of it's out of our control. So it's like we let you know when we know. But follow us on Twitter. We're also keep an eye on your email. We'll send all our updates there. We don't send any spam, any junk, any of that stuff. So get on the list. Yeah, or stay tuned. The proposed.
That's such a great question.
I had to say Elon on this one because it feels like he's probably hanging out with people who know how to do the cage match. So my question is, how much is the pay-per-view going to cost? And what do you feel their Northbeam watch party?
I put all my money on Stock. He's an assassin right now.
I mean, whoever wins, do they have to fight Logan Paul? Like, is that like the natural escalation?
Just all of our celebrities become boxers and MMA fighters, and that's how we're gonna.
Like Elon has time for this, like.
But like Elon doesn't have time, but like he's also created things that literally go to space. Like I feel like he's going to, and he has Neuralink. Like he's just going to be like the Matrix, like download kung fu and just like.
Well, stay tuned.
These are the hard hitting questions we need answers to.
Anyway,
Awesome.
Thank you all so much. If you have any questions at all, tweet at us, reach out to your account reps, slide in our DMs. We're all available. Just chat with us. We built this tool for you. As you can see, it's marketers building it for marketers. So if you have questions, ideas, suggestions, you have problems, whatever it is, please reach out to us. We love to hear from you. And we'll be doing more of these as new product features launch. We make major updates to make sure that you all are getting the most out of Northbeam. So thank you so much. JMB, Dave, thank you so much for joining. Thanks to all of our attendees. And we'll see you all very soon.
Thanks, everybody.